we're going to see FOMO unlike anything we have ever seen before.
Today I interviewed George of CryptosRUs.
Kind of like when Bitcoin first hit 1,000, people couldn't believe that.
As he gives his outlook for crypto in 2024.
2024, I think, could end well above 100,000.
His best investing strategy for crypto.
So I developed this new strategy that I think works very well.
As well as best altcoins that George likes with the biggest growth potential. And I'm not saying I don't like Solana. I like Solana. I just want to find the next one. And even a secret altcoin.
One that's not appropriate that I'm not going to name, but I think most people know.
Can you guess what George is buying? What? I don't know.
It's on Avalanche. It's called.
I'll have to look that up. Click the like button if you appreciate collabs like this, and let's start. 2024, narrative-wise, seems like it's going to be big. What's your crypto outlook for 2024?
People know me as the biggest Bitcoin bull out there, right? I'm always bullish, but man, I'm so bullish. I can't state how bullish I am about 2024. I think there are so many catalysts that will be driving Bitcoin and entire crypto market upwards. We have spot ETFs right around the corner. It looks like it's a done deal, 13 pending applications. And then shortly after that, we have the halving event. So, I mean, back to back. And then from a macro perspective, rate cuts will come right after that. We got presidential election. I mean, there's just so many things to look forward to in 2024. So I'm really bullish.
Now, if history rhymes, the big year is usually 12 months after the Bitcoin halving, which would lead into the beginning of 2025. Yet it seems for all those reasons and more, the bullish front running per se is happening now. Mm-hmm. Do you think we'll see a sell-off after the BlackRock ETF, maybe a lull in the market for the following year? Or is this the year?
Well, I think that's certainly possible, especially like short term. Let's say after January 10th is the deadline for the spot ETF approvals before the next one in March. But let's say we get it, we get it on January 8th or January 9th, right? The market runs up a little bit, and then it could dump down until the halving event, which is in April. So can that be possible? Sure. But it's hard to predict. People have asked me this. Is this, buy the rumor, sell the news type event? It's so hard to predict how much money will be flowing in. So this is not like a usual thing where, okay, say Cardano or Solana is going through an upgrade, right? A lot of times we do see that, like after the big upgrade, it dumps. But we're now onboarding a new avenue for institutions and whales and retail investors alike to dump in their money into the market. That's different. That's not just the upgrade, right? So who's to say that we will get something like that, especially if billions upon billions start flowing into the market because of the ETFs, right? So it certainly can happen, but in my opinion, I think it's unlikely. If we get a dip, it happens all the time, it's short-lived, and then we just, skyrocket afterwards.
Realistically speaking, what range, how high could Bitcoin go this cycle? I would assume you think over 100K, but does it go much farther?
I think so. I mean, just think about this. Bitcoin topped out 69,000. Let's just round up 70,000. After we hit 70,000 this time around, it's only 30,000 points away from 100,000, right? That magical six-figure mark. After we hit that, I think the sky is really the limit. At that point, it's hard for anyone to ignore Bitcoin at that time. We're going to see FOMO unlike anything we have ever seen before. Kind of like when Bitcoin first hit 1,000, people couldn't believe that. Then 10,000, people couldn't believe that. This time around, hitting 100,000 will be, let's go blow people's minds away. So I think we're going to go a lot higher. I think especially with the introduction of ETFs, we're going to get massive liquidity coming in from sources that never had exposure to Bitcoin before, like retirement funds, pension funds. These kind of funds, they just can't buy Bitcoin. It's just really hard for them to hold physical Bitcoin. But now they could use up that money, and buy spot ETFs, which will then in turn force these fund companies to buy Bitcoin. So, I mean, I just think 2024, like what you said, is usually like, when a cycle happens after the halving event, you got like that 2 year or 1.5 years of bullishness. So 2024, I think, could end well above 100,000, like maybe even 125. But then it's going to get really interesting in 2025. How high up do we go in 2025? That's supposed to be the most bullish year, right? And we could see something where, where Bitcoin kind of slows down because it's already above 100 as it approaches 150, 200. I think it's going to slow down, but that's where the alts could be flying, because we always see alts fly up at the tail end of a cycle. This time around, we could see them fly up a little bit earlier. Maybe that's what we see in 2025.
George, what is your profit taking strategy, generally speaking? Because somebody pontificated to me that they're not sure that we're not going to see the crypto markets, like all hell break loose in the crypto market after Bitcoin surpasses 100K, of people like unsure selling alts. There's, that's a psychological resistance that they take some profit. What is your profit taking strategy?
Ooh, taking profits, hardest thing to do in crypto, honestly. It's much easier to buy when things are going down than selling on the way up. It really is. So I developed this new strategy that I think works very well. And several people that I've told this to, they thought about it and they're like, this is a really good way to do it. So when it comes to investing, first and foremost, take out your initial investment, right? So make sure you take out your original investment, then you're riding with house money, basically. But even with that, could add up to substantial amounts as this bull market, continues forward. So I've developed this new strategy where basically keep anywhere from 25 up to 35% of your portfolio in cash at all times. Okay. And with that, that's how you gauge if you need to take profits, because as your portfolio starts skyrocketing, of course, that cash pile percentage is going to start shrinking. So it may be at 25% right now. And then in a few months, 6 months down the road, you're like, oh, it's only down to 10%, right? So that means you need to replenish that cash pile, start selling off some of your winners, get that back to 25%, right? And as the market keeps going upwards, keep doing that. Keep taking profits and making sure that cash pile stays at the same percentage, whatever you think you're comfortable with. It could be less than 25%. It could be 15, 20%, but it could be as high as, let's say, 35%, right? And you can adjust on the fly. So in 2025, Bitcoin's above 200,000 already. You're like, well, I want to make sure my cash pile is 50% at that point because I just don't know when it's going to come down. That's fine, right? But set a percentage for yourself. That way you kind of force yourself, like, okay, I'm a little too heavy into crypto, into my holdings. Let me sell some off and put it into cash, right? In case the market downturns, in case there's a dip, whatever it may be, right? So that's my new strategy, and it's been working pretty well.
One of the big winners, altcoin-wise, in 2023 was Solana. Why did Solana do so well, get so popular, in your opinion, when everybody said it was dead?
Well, there's two reasons. Number one, it sold off way more than everyone else. So part of the gain, if you look at it, it's like up 900 something percent for the year. It's because it sold off way more than some of the others. And that's because the FTX and SBF and the whole fun around it. Many speculated that FTX, after they went down, they were just going to dump all their Solana because they hold an enormous amount of Solana. But now people are realizing that's not the case. Most of the Solana they hold are locked in for years upon years upon years. They can't touch it. And even the excess ones that they could have sold, surprising enough, they restaked it. They did not sell it off, right? I think after that move, that's when people came to realization, okay, Solana is pretty low. it hit as low as $8. It's not going to be any lower. It was already down like 99 something percent. So why don't I start picking it up? Because fundamentally, Solana, dubbed the ETH killer, is still potentially ETH killer. It's still very fast, very robust. And one of the biggest complaints about Solana, network outages, seems to have been solved. We haven't heard of one network outage in 2023. In 2021, 2022, we heard at least a dozen times where something went wrong. They had to reset the network. We haven't heard that either. So it made people more comfortable. So I think fundamentally, Solana is still strong. It's still, it still has a robust NFT marketplace, robust DeFi ecosystem. Now their memes are blowing up, right? People are just, they want to get in what's, I guess, the fastest moving horse, right? And Solana is definitely one of the fastest moving in 2023.
I could see a big narrative in 2024 being what's the Solana killer? Just like the narrative in 2020, 2021 was what's the next Ethereum killer? And I'm not saying I don't like Solana. I like Solana. I just want to find the next one. What is the next Solana?
Oh, that's very tough. That's very tough. There are a few that I like, but I don't know. They're already really big, so I don't know if they can be the next Solana killer. Another project I really like is Avalanche. Avalanche is going hard into games. They have some spectacular games, AAA games like Shrapnel that's already onboarded, but they're trying to onboard so many others, and I think they will go very far. But they're above 10 billion already. They're probably not going to be the next Solana killer. Even if they are, it's not very exciting because they're not that far off. But I think something else we're seeing are a lot of the L2s. Okay. We've seen Arbitrum and Optimism shoot up to new highs, right? New heights, but not previous highs, but they're getting up there. But we're also seeing a lot of the other L2s starting to pick up steam as well. There's a lot that seem to be like just skyrocketing right now. Metis is one of them, something that I just came across recently. People asked me about that. They're blowing up. There's others like Mantle that's blowing up. Scales, another L2 that's blowing up. So I think in 2024, you're going to see a lot of these L2s, steal a lot away from Ethereum, even though they're all L2s and they're all helping dApp makers still stay with EVM. But, quite honestly, they are stealing a lot of momentum and volume away from Ethereum. And a lot of the Cosmos stuff, like the Cosmos L1s, they're blowing up too. Like, let's not forget Injective. Injective, I think, is the biggest winner of 2023 in terms of L1s. They outperformed Solana by 3x or 4x. They're killing it. They could be the next, Solana killer. You have something new like Celestia that also killed it in 2023. There's a lot of L1s out of Cosmos that's doing very well. So any number of these, honestly, could be the next Solana or the Solana killer. For me, I just diversify. I try not to bet on one winner. I just try to bet on all the winners.
In a way, BlackRock is mass adoption. It's like they're the biggest asset manager in the world. After they get in and everybody else around them gets in, who's left? Leading some people to believe this could be a super cycle. How much credibility do you give into that?
Yeah, I think it could turn out to be that way. Here's the thing, like if you think about it, prior to this, what we're going through right now, let's look at previous cycles. The 2021 top, 2017 top, right? And the 2013 top. The three previous cycles before, 100% driven by retail investors. So, and retail investors kind of like follow the same trend, at least a lot of them did, and realize, well, after a halving event, that's when it gets bullish. So let's start buying after a halving event. And also the, 2 years after or a year and a half afterwards, that's usually the top. So let's start selling, right? So it almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy if you think about it. There's really no reason why Bitcoin needs to fall after a top. It's just that I think a lot of people anticipate it's going to fall down. People start selling and then others follow. It's kind of that herd mentality, right? But now with the big institutions, they don't want to play the short game. They're not trying to time the top or bottom, right? So if they get involved and they start buying billions upon billions of Bitcoin or Bitcoin spot ETFs, at the end of 2025, are they go be like retail investors and say, well, okay, it's December 2025. I better sell everything I have. Are they really going to be like that? I don't think so. So it makes sense that a lot of these big boys, once they come in, they're in it for 10 years, 20 years, 50 years. So they buy in, they're just going to keep on accumulating. I don't think they're going to set a clock to it like, oh, I have to sell everything by December 2025. And if that's the case, the vast majority of Bitcoin is being held by long-term holders, the miners who are definitely not selling, and the institutions, then we very well may have super cycles from here on out, and we could have small dips, but we're not going to have an 80% dip anymore. That could be reality.
George, as I'm going to let you go, because I know it's new year, new you, you're a family man. So a couple more questions, but obligatory question, besides altcoins in the top 10, what are 2 or 3 on your radar that you think, damn, that's interesting to me?
Oh, I'm afraid to name them because they're memes. That's why I don't want your audience to like go, oh, okay, let's go FOMO into these memes. But recently, because the market has been doing well, right? I've been a little bit more degening, okay, if that's a word. Looking at a lot of the memes because I think memes are fun, right? When the market is hot, people love to FOMO into memes, and a lot of these are really creative, right? And some actually serve a greater purpose. They actually bring a lot of activity to chains that normally don't have a lot of activity, right? So, I mean, there's several of them. I'll just name one, like Sneck on Cardano. I'm a big fan of that project because exactly what I said, Cardano is seen as like a pretty boring or serious, let's just say a serious project, right? Led by a serious leader, Charles, and all about decentralization and making sure that everything's 100% decentralized. It could get a little boring. And Sneck, led by hardcore Cardano people, they're doxed already. And I know they have other projects within Cardano. They're like hardcore Cardano guys. I know they didn't just create Sneck as a way to get rich quick. Of course, that's a side effect, but they created it because they really believe in the ecosystem and they want to bring some excitement, more volume, and that's exactly what they have done, right? And that's why I'm a fan of the project, and I think they could do well. So I'll just say them. But there are so many other memes. One that's not appropriate that I'm not going to name, but I think most people know which one it is. But there's a lot of others. And
what I don't know. Is it bonk? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Dude,
no.
The audience understands that they're garbage. You're throwing away your money, but that's the fun. Let me know.
The logo is a picture of a chicken.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
I don't, honestly. I'll bleep it out, George. I'll bleep it out. The audience can find it.
Okay. It's on Avalanche. It's called.
I'll have to look that up. That's funny.
Yeah, it's doing quite well. It's actually doing quite well.
Nice. Interesting. Damn, this is why I'm glad to have you on, to get this, true DGen alpha.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, and I know it's hard to pick. And really, sometimes you just don't know. Sometimes you get lucky. But anyways, with memes, it's not something that you just go all in on. You put all your money, because a lot of people think they need to do that in order to become millionaires overnight, right? That's the wrong play. With memes, they're very speculative, very dangerous. So just if you go play in them, do a very small amount. That's what I'm doing. Majority of my portfolio, of course, is in Bitcoin and a lot of these L1s and L2s.
George, best advice for crypto investors in 2024?
Don't rush it. Don't rush it. In a bull market, selling is very tough. We talked about that, taking profits, right? And also people feel like it's almost a real thing. So I think a lot of people, and sometimes I have a hard time with this, they'll look at their own bags and say, well, this bag is not moving, but this bag is, right? And then a lot of people try to switch too often. So they may be selling off, I don't know, immutable for injective, or they may be selling off XRP for Ethereum or something like that, right? And they may do it often. But in a lot of cases, when it's all said and done and you look at all the trades and everything you have done, you would have been better off had you just held in DCA, right? So in a bull market, especially a bull market in 2024, I think you're going to see a lot of winners. And also, I think you're going to see a lot of rotations, that the winners may slow down and then there'll be new winners that's leading the way for several weeks or months. But I think there will be people that will always try to chase, and that's the wrong way to do it. So just don't rush things. Stay true to the strategy that has worked throughout crypto winter, and that is stick with the winners, DCA into them on a schedule, right? And if you want to add new things in your portfolio, do so. Slowly do so. Don't try to shift all, one bag for another bag and another bag, another bag. You're going to end up costing yourself.
George, I subscribe to you because you put out such great information daily. Link for your channel is down below in the video description. I encourage my audience to subscribe. I do want to ask, there's a crypto influencer fight in 2024. Yes. I attended the pre-party in Vegas a couple weeks ago. It was fun, a lot of fun. Tell us about that, the fight.
The big thing. It's going to be huge. It's going to take place in February. So there are 7 matches right now, 14 influencers, some of the biggest guys out there. So we had an IFC kickoff party in Vegas. I'm glad to see you and your brother there, and all the IFC influencers were there. But it's going to happen in February. These guys are serious. Like, of course, none of them are pro fighters, but a lot of them had martial arts experience or boxing experience. They grew up with it and they want to prove themselves that they could do it. And some are representing their projects too. So I think it's a whole lot of fun. The location, it could switch. It's supposed to be in DR, but it could switch to Mexico City, one of the two. So still trying to get clarification on that. But for anyone that wants to learn more, make sure you follow the Influencer Fight Club X page, and also a lot of videos on CryptosRUs Plus that you can check out.
Is that going to be streamed live on CryptosRUs Plus, or how can the audience watch?
Yes, that will be. When the fight happens, yes, we'll definitely live stream it. But also, this is in conjunction with Karate Combat, so they have their own streaming and they have television rights. So it's going to be absolutely big. It's going to happen during KC44.
And by the way, for the folks at home, you guys don't want to know the bag that George and Karate Combat offered me and my brother Aaron to fight. Man, we turned it down. Got to keep the brotherhood together. But George, thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me once again.